Hi everyone. Welcome to my channel International Storyteller. In this channel you will find true horror stories worldwide. These stories are for entertainment purposes only. In this video, I will tell you the story of the most haunted house in the Spanish city of Cordoba. Cordoba is a city in the southern Spanish region of Andalusia. According to the legend, in the center of a Spanish city called Cordoba, there is an old and ruined house. The house is very big and has many rooms. All of the floors of this house are covered in black tiles. At night, many people can hear the screams of a little girl who is crying and asking for help. Sometimes treasure hunters came to this house in search of finding any gold coins. Many people also visited this house at night to test their courage, but nobody has been brave enough to spend the night there. The house is now covered, and the neighbors often call the police because of the strange cries and screams that come from within the house. When the police arrive to investigate the house, the only thing that they find is an old candle sitting on a tile in the middle of the floor. The scary story of this haunted house in the city of Cordoba is spread all over Spain. Over the years, the story of this haunted house has passed from one person to another. Why was everyone hearing the scary sound of a young girl in this old, haunted house? Why did some people visit the house in search of gold? What really happened in this house? In order to know this, let us hear the story of the haunted house in Cordoba city of Spain. Many years ago, there was a large and beautiful house in the center of Cordoba, a city in Spain. It was owned by one of the most important and wealthy families in the city, known as the Velascos. The family consisted of a father, his wife, and their 8-year-old daughter. The 8-year-old daughter's name was Sofia. Sofia's parents were busy all the time and away for work. So their parents hired a maid to look after their daughter Sofia. The maid's name was Isabella. She lived in the house with Sofia and would only go home to her family once or twice a month. Despite all her years of service to the Velascos, Isabella was paid a very low salary. But she knew she was better off staying with them than trying to find work elsewhere. One day Isabella went to her real house, but she came back to the Velascos' house in tears. The little girl Sofia asked Isabella, "Why are you sad?" Isabella replied that her son's health is very sick and he needs to see a doctor, but she doesn't have enough money to afford it. Then Sofia said again, "Why don't you ask my mother and father to help?" Isabella repeated that she had already asked for help from Sofia's parents. Since they were wealthy people, they were very tight with their money. They spend their money only on making luxurious things for their house and on their business. One day, Sofia's parents went out of town for some business. They asked Isabella to take care of their daughter until they arrived because they wouldn't be back for a few days. So from that day Sofia lived together in Isabella's room. That night, Isabella and Sofia were having a long conversation before sleeping. Since they were alone, Isabella and Sofia were having a hard time falling asleep. After laying in bed for hours, they heard a strange scraping noises in the corridor outside their room. Since they were alone in the house, they wondered if somebody had broken into their house. Slowly, they opened the door of their bedroom and looked out into the long and dark corridor. At the end of the corridor, they saw a small figure standing. They were surprised to see that the small figure was a young boy, the same age as Sofia. In one hand, he held a candle, which was the only source of light illuminating the dark corridor. On the other hand, he was holding up one of the black tiles. As a result, there was a hole in the ground. Sofia and Isabella saw the young boy take something from his pocket and drop it into the hole beneath the tile. It made a familiar clinking sound that they heard while they were trying to sleep in their room. They came to realize that the strange scraping noises they heard in the corridor outside her room were those of the clinking sound made by the boy while dropping something from his pocket into the hole. The boy placed the tile back in its original position. He also left the lit candle on the ground. After he replaced the tile, the boy suddenly disappeared into thin air. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. The maid, Isabella, grabbed a candle from the kitchen and came back to the little girl. They both knew what they had seen was not a real young boy, he was really a ghost. Together, they cautiously approached the place where the boy had been standing. They want to see what the thing was that the ghost boy took from his pocket and dropped it into the hole beneath the tile. If the boy hadn't left the candle, there was no way they would have been able to find the loose tile. It was absolutely impossible that this big tile could be moved easily by the little boy. Isabella lifted the tile up and discovered that there was a narrow hole below it. When she looked down into the hole, by using the dim light of the candle, she noticed something glittering. At first, Isabella tried to enter the hole, but the hole was too narrow for her to go down into it. So Isabella asked Sophia to enter, go down the hole, and see what was inside. Isabella held up the large thick pile with one hand and used the other hand to hold Sophia's hand as she lowered the little girl into the hole. Sophia could not believe what she found. It was a pile of gold coins. Carefully, she collected the coins, put them in her pocket, and climbed back up. Then, Isabella grabbed her by the hand and pulled her out of the hole. Sophia took out the gold coin from her pocket and handed it to Isabella. Isabella was convinced that her prayers had been answered. They replaced a tile, and it fit back perfectly, looking like it had never been moved. Isabella could hardly believe her luck, and Sophia was full of excitement. They returned back into their bedroom and agreed not to tell anyone else about the discovery of the gold coins and would keep it a secret. The next night, around the same time, they heard the same scraping sound again coming from the corridor. They went to the corridor, and they saw the same ghostly figure of the boy lifting a tile and dropping some gold coins into the hole beneath. After he disappeared, they went near the hole, and just like the night before, Isabella lowered the girl into the hole under the large thick tile so that she could retrieve the gold coins. Sophia climbed down the hole, collected those gold coins, put them inside her pocket, and climbed out of the hole. Sophia would then hand over the gold coin to her maid Isabella. Night after night, they repeated the same process. It seemed as if the treasure would never end, and this continued every night for the rest of the week. Now Isabella had enough money to treat her sick son who was staying at her actual home. One morning Isabella went to her home to pay for her son's doctor's bills. Then she returns and waits for the night to reach so that she can collect the gold coin from the hole. Isabella thought that the infinite amount of gold was given to her by the gods. So, why should she say no to that? On the 8th night, the burning candle that the little boy left had been worn down to an inch. The candle was almost finished, so Isabella quickly lowered the girl into the hole. The candle light started to flicker. Isabella told Sophia to hurry up because the candle was about to go out. Sophia quickly entered the hole, collected the gold coins in her pocket, and climbed back up. Isabella pulled the little girl out of the hole, but at the last moment, some of the coins spilled out of her pocket. Instinctively, Sophia let go of Isabella's hand where she was holding it so that she could grab those gold coins that had spilled out of her pocket. As a result, she fell to the bottom of the hole. Isabella reached out to try and grab her, but in doing so, she let go of the tile. The tile slammed down and covered the hole. And at that moment, the candle went out. Isabella was now in complete darkness, and she began to panic. Sophia was screaming underneath the ground, but Isabella couldn't hear her properly. She had to find another candle quickly. In the darkness, she tried to make her way down the corridor to her bedroom to get another candle. It was very dark, and she couldn't see anything. She had to feel her way along the wall until she reached her bedroom door. But she couldn't find any candles in her room. With a lot of difficulty, she felt her way down the darkened corridor until she came to the kitchen. She found some candles on the dining table, and luckily, there was a matchbox next to them. She lit the candle and quickly returned to the corridor. Then her heart sank because she realized that she couldn't remember which tile the little girl was under. She was unable to find the right one. She was helpless, collapsed on the ground, and wept. Finally, she gave up and went back to bed, but she couldn't sleep that night. In the morning, the little girl's parents return home and find their daughter missing. They questioned the maid about their daughter missing. Isabella told the whole incident about what happened last night in the dark corridor of their house and how Sophia got lost under the tile. Sophia's parents were so angry after hearing the story that they immediately expelled Isabella from the house. Then a complete search of the entire house was organized, but it turned up nothing. This really worried Sophia's parents, who were saddened by their daughter's mysterious disappearance. Every day, Sophia's mother walked up and down the corridor, calling out her daughter's name and asking where she was. But one day, while the mother was crying in her room, she suddenly heard a voice calling out. She was able to recognize the voice immediately. It was the voice of her missing daughter. The little girl was crying out for someone to help her. The mother followed her voice to the hallway and found out that her daughter's voice was coming out from inside the ground. She calls out for her daughter and asks, "Where are you, Sophia?" She again heard the voice of her daughter asking for help and to get her out of the hole. The mother searched the entire house again. Sometimes the screams seemed to be coming from one part of the house, but when she got there, the screams sounded like they were coming from a different part of the house. Later, the father joined the search to find out the source of their daughter's crying, but they could not pinpoint the source of the screams. The father called a construction worker, which quickly tore up the tile from the floor and dug up the ground. Then they demolished the walls and punched holes in the ceilings, all in an effort to figure out where the girl's cries for help were coming from. After almost destroying the interior of the house, they were still unable to find out their missing daughter, and thus they became hopeless and admitted that their daughter was lost forever. For months, they lived in the building, but the innocent cries of their beloved daughter asking for help would not stop. Since they were unable to do anything to find their daughter, it's made them very upset and increase on their mental and physical health. Eventually, the mother lost her mind and died herself. The father was heartbroken after losing both his daughter and wife. He eventually moved away from the house and died of a heart attack a few years later. The people of Spain believed that this was a true story, and the house is still standing today. Some other people would go into the house and explore the huge building in an attempt to discover where the remains of the little girl location. But when someone visits the house at night, they can still hear the scary voice of the little girl calling out to be saved and help her.